Would you like to get your keyboard to sound just like a guitar? That's what I'm going to help you with in this video. So modern keyboards have all sorts of high quality guitar sounds in them. But in order to use them and to make them sound like a real guitar, you have to stay within certain parameters. And that's what I want to show you today. A few tips and tricks that I've picked up along the way. The keyboard I'm using today is a Yamaha Genos 1. It's one of the world's best arranger keyboards, and it's got some of the most fantastic guitar sounds on it as well. I'm going to give you a quick example of them so you know what I'm using. So what I'm going to do is go into my voices here. I've already got it selected, in fact. I've gone to the acoustic guitar category and I've chosen this concert guitar. This is a classical guitar, really gorgeous sound. And there's a variation. Did you hear that little tap on? We'll get into that later, but I love the little effects that there are on this keyboard. Flamenco guitar. And then things like steel, acoustic, dreadnought guitars. There's a nice version called acoustic pick, and this one brings in a plectrum over the strings. So rather than the softer sound that a finger gives on the strings, pick will just give it a slightly harder sound. And there's a thumb pick one as well, which is a little bit softer still. So really nice selection. And I've got to show you this one too, called resonator guitar. You might have picked up on some of those little nuances like string slides and buzzes. We'll get into those a little bit later. That's part of the joy of a great keyboard with top technology in it like this, is the sounds are so authentic. But before we get into that, I want to talk about the challenge that designers must have when making a guitar sound that's realistic when a pianist plays it. Because us pianists are used to using the whole length of the keyboard when we play piano. But that doesn't sound right when you're using a guitar. For example, if I chose a piano as my voice and I played just in the regular way that I do play piano, like this. If I try and replicate that with guitar, listen to what happens. So obviously it sounds muddy and deep, and it doesn't sound like a guitar, does it? The poor keyboard and the technology is trying to compensate somewhat. But the fact is, when you're using a guitar on these keyboards as a single voice, try to keep within the range of a guitar. And that tends to start with the E note here. In fact, guitarists will be very familiar with this sound. The notes from a guitar that you're not playing a chord on, or you've just bumped into or something, and it makes this. It's E, A, D, G, B, E are the notes of a guitar without a chord being played. That sounds very familiar, I'm sure. And so what we've got there is basically the range of a guitar. We don't want to go any deeper than this E note here, because that's the lowest note on a guitar. We can, if we want to, drop the D, as guitarists sometimes do, and the D will be the lowest note. And you guitarists will know that sometimes dropping the D just enriches the bass and really does give you a beautiful, rich sound. But pianists, when you're playing this guitar on your keyboard, try not to go any lower than that E there, maybe down to a D if you need to. Otherwise it's going to sound too muddy and too deep, and consequently don't go too far up here because it starts to sound a bit weird too. When you go beyond the range of a guitar, you're getting into territory which doesn't quite sound right. But another important point is for pianists like me who are very comfortable playing in C when I'm improvising, when I'm composing, because I know my way around C. It tends to just be the white notes, so it's quite easy to do. Now, if I'm using a guitar, I'm already starting off too low. If I just play something in C, look. It doesn't sound too bad, but it's still a little bit too low. It's like the strings on the guitar have been wound down too low. But being a digital keyboard, what we have the ability to do is transpose the key of the whole thing into a key that suits us. So what this means is, if you look at the keys here, I'll show you what I mean. If I start playing an E note, keep that in your head, because that's the note that I want the C to produce. So what I'm going to do is press the transpose button over here, and I'm going to press it 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Master transpose up to 4. Now what happens is I play a C, and what do we hear? The same note. We're getting an E. We're getting an E coming out of the C note. And what does that mean? That means that now I can play in my in the key that I'm very comfortable in, but the whole pitch has been shifted up into a range that is suitable for guitar playing, for example. And already, because I know all the little flicks and the tricks and the riffs in C, and I'm very comfortable, the actual sound that I'm producing is beginning to sound a little bit more natural, a bit more like there's somebody actually playing a guitar who's very comfortable and very adept. And that's the result of putting it into a key that suits you. So that's a useful tip to have. When I was playing there, notice also that rather than playing like I would a piano, where I'm being quite punchy and playing block chords, a little bit like this, another way to get your keyboard to sound like a guitar, and I'm going to use, let's go to the thumb pick one, is to actually roll onto the chord rather than just play a direct. If I roll onto it, the effect that's given is that you're actually strumming the guitar. So I'll give you a little example of what I mean, and watch out for the way that I'm just rolling onto each chord. Try it as well with the concert guitar one. So with just a little adjustment in the way that you approach playing the chords, you can get your keyboard to sound much more like a guitar. But most of all, my advice is don't overdo it. Don't be too busy on the notes. Give the keyboard and the guitar space in between notes to let the sound resonate and let it breathe a little bit. And consequently, it'll start sounding a little bit more like a guitar. And I want to talk about what you really get that's fantastic from this type of keyboard, and you've probably picked up on it yourself a little bit, is some of those nuances. Again, think from the designer's perspective. How is a designer of a keyboard like this going to get a pianist to sound like a guitarist? Because when a pianist goes between notes, there's kind of nothing in between, is there? If I just play a simple scale here, if I play, think about the mechanics of it, that's just 4 hammers going bong, 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 and hitting strings. On a guitar, it doesn't always work like that. Sometimes, because it's finger manipulated, there'll be a slide. Guitarists out there will know what a string buzz and a fret slide sounds like, or rather a fret buzz and a string slide sounds like. When we use a guitar on a keyboard like this, the technology comes in and it sees when you play 2 notes in quick succession that are quite close to each other, and it will insert a string slide or a bit of fret buzz. Listen to this. So lots of little slides and buzzes in there. And did you even hear, when I took my fingers off, there was the sound of the guitarist's palm hitting the body of the guitar. And many of these voices you see on the screen here on the Yamaha Genos will indeed have extra articulations that you can trigger with a foot pedal, like that. So it's like a guitarist is playing and hitting the body of the guitar, and you can use it as well. I've got it linked to a pedal. It's quite clever. I find it a bit hard to do with a pedal because I'm so used to using it as a sustain pedal, but let's try it with the steel acoustic as well. So it's a different type of effect, but if used correctly, it's actually quite effective at making it sound again like a natural guitar, even though we're playing a keyboard. That classical guitar is so good, it often makes me think of John Williams playing. And I'm going to try and play something now that, while I was rehearsing for this video, popped into my head. And I'm going to try not to ruin it, expect a few bum notes, but I had a lot of fun doing it and I really wanted to share it with you, and I've made a setting for Yamaha Genos which you can have for free. If you'd like the same setting that I use in this next song, then let me know. You'll recognize the song. I can email it to you. It'll work on your Yamaha Genos, Yamaha Genos 2, PSR SX900 and PSR SX700. Okay, here we go. Got it wrong already. Making sure we're back, because I am playing in E with this one. So Cavatina, of course, John Williams, from the movie Deer Hunter. That's where I discovered it anyway, but it's just perfect for that concert classical guitar, isn't it? And I've made a special setting for the registrations here, which if you'd like a copy of, Average Keyboard Guy, Cavatina, I'll send it to you. Send me an email, the email in the description below. I'll send it through to you for free, put it on your Genos. It'll sound exactly the same as mine. I put concert guitar, I put some of this nice airy pad harp on there as well, and the boys' choir. And when we get to the last bit, there's this Mediterranean mandolin, which just starts playing over the top, which I think works really well at filling it out slightly. But even just the concert guitar just works really, really well all on its own. But that's the fun you can have with this type of keyboard, is you get stuck into it and you find something new and you keep adding things, and before I knew it I was spending quite a long time doing it and just having fun. And that's what these things are all about, isn't it? It's just having fun. So moving on a little bit to how we can integrate some of these guitars actually into the accompaniments. What do I mean by accompaniments? A range of keyboards like the Yamaha Genos here will play automatic bands for you. You'd be playing on your own and you might think, do you know what, I want a rock band or a pop band or an orchestra to join in with me. And there's a way you can tell the keyboard to do that, where you just play and it follows you. In a way you're acting as the conductor of a band, but it's a fantastic way to play. I first of all chose a style of music that I liked, and I went very much to my genre and my sort of musical background, which is 90s. That's my era. So I've got a 90s 8-beat ballad just here on the screen. And what I'm going to do is just give you an example of, if you're new to arrangers, what a 90s ballad sounds like. It's going to sound, it's not for a particular song, it's just a generic ballad, and this is what it sounds like. I'm just going to play a few chords. Set it up how I like it first. Here we go. Hang on, I want to go back to piano first. Here we go. Okay, so that's the style of music. I've essentially travelled back in time to the 90s, picked up a standard ballad band, and they're joining me while I'm playing. But these accompaniments you can add on some guitars to as well if you use this type of keyboard, using something called the Mulitpad control over here. If I go into here and go to the first one at the top left, because there's loads of different things you can choose from, but I'm just talking about guitars in this particular video. And I'm going to choose the first one here called Steel 8-beat guitar. Now, to keep this simple, what this is going to do when I press button number 1 is it's as if there's going to be an acoustic guitar player called John appearing beside me. And when I press that, John is just going to start strumming his guitar. Watch. Okay, so it's very, very basic. The nice thing is, even before I start the rest of the band playing, I can start playing chords, playing the keyboard, and John's going to follow what I play. For example, so good old John, he's a professional player. He just follows what I play on the keyboard and joins in. Now, if I get the rest of the band to join in as well, I'm going to start off without John playing, and then I'm going to bring John in by pressing Mulitpad button number 1. You got that, John? Good. Okay, so synchronized start here, and I'm just going to start playing the first few verses in the song. So as you can hear, I can use the multipads to just add that simple guitar strumming to the backing that I'm using. Incidentally, I only used button number 1 there, but 2, 3 and 4 will give you variations of it as well. Number 2, I'll just play it for you. So it's got a bit more of a country lilt to it with the bass. Number 1 sounded like this, by the way. Number 2 sounds like this. A nice thing to do is actually do them both at the same time, because it's like having a John this side and a John this side. It really fills out that acoustic guitar element. So there we have it. Multipads are fantastic for just introducing guitar into the overall backing that you're using on this type of keyboard. And I've barely scratched the surface there as well, I should say. You've got a whole different section here which will give you variations as well. Each one's got 4 on there. You've got guitar picking as well. Different types of strumming. So any type of acoustic guitar strumming you can think of, you can get it there in the multipads. And a good tip for you is go into this button called Legacy if you like acoustic guitars, because in here you'll find all the previous ones Yamaha put on older models of keyboards are still in here. So you can choose them. Go to steel guitar at the top and look. We get 3 pages of them, and some of them are, I'll just play a few. Some are quite fun to play with. That's a very sort of Bob Dylan-y one. Different strums. So one's good for ballads there as well. So I hope that's helped anyway. Just if using a modern keyboard like this, remembering to keep within certain parameters if you're using the guitar voices alone to make them sound a little bit more natural. And on this particular type of keyboard, that's how you can introduce a bit of extra guitar onto your accompaniments. Plus, if you want a copy of that registration, just email me. I like to share it with everybody. You can play with it yourself perhaps and send me a video of you playing, or change it and send it back to me if you like playing around with those things. But it's just good fun, isn't it, to share these things. But that's all for this time. Thanks for watching. Can you help us out by pressing the thumbs up below the video? That's really useful to us. See you next time. Thank you.